Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance, where you can sign up for the Shannons Club, and Penrite Oil, offering technical assistance 7 days a week.
Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of Classic Restos. Of course, not possible without the continued support from Shannons Insurance and Penrite Oil. How lucky are we to have Shannons Insurance? They offer us as the enthusiast just so much more. On top of that, Shannons themselves is ran by enthusiasts like us too. You can pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote on 134646. Shannons are renowned for their competitions, promotions, multi-policy discounts, the list goes on. If you go online, it's an opportunity to sign up to become a member of the Shannons Club. See what they do when you visit Shannons at shannons.com.au. When it comes time for the finest in oils and coolants, you cannot go past Penrite. They've been established since 1926. They're Australian made and Australian owned, which is getting harder to find these days. It doesn't matter what type of engine or the size, Penrite has a product to help you. Why not take advantage of their technical assistance line 7 days a week? Find out more when you visit penrite.com.au. Oil right. Use Penrite. Simply a better class of oil. And on today's show, I'm catering for our military enthusiasts. And even if you're not an enthusiast, some of these restored vehicles are incredibly interesting. Welcome to the Australian Ex-Military Vehicle Collector Society, known as the AMVCS. Now, the aim of this society is to preserve, provide guidance and information to restorers, encourage the operation and facilitate the display to the public of historical military motor vehicles produced in any country in the world, over all age eras up to the present day. Membership of the society is not limited to vehicles only. Many members are not MV owners for many reasons, but still display an interest in the technology and the history, and all members are respected equally. The Society also coordinates outings and rally functions throughout the year, including events to remote parts of the state, where the off-road capability of many of the members' vehicles is tested. Experienced members provide training and guidance to less experienced drivers, which is nice. Despite the going-to-war attitude these vehicles may present, the Society operates all of its functions as would a vintage motor car club, which is precisely what the Society is. The carrying and display of firearms is prohibited, so if you're thinking of shooting your mouth off here today, sorry to disappoint you. The circle of military vehicle preservation clubs is worldwide. It's time now to go and feel their passion.
My dad had a Renault 750, which I had to learn to drive on because I ended up being an apprentice motor mechanic. So this started us off with cars, but I'd always wanted to be a motor mechanic. The only thing I could ever think about with no brains. So we went from there and I got an apprenticeship with a friend of my dad's. And one of the things we had there was actually a Blitz tow truck, 4x4 Blitz, which was a bit sad, but it was still a goer. My boss had actually built it after the war, and he'd been in the one business for 30 years in the same spot at that stage. So we kept running this thing under lots of stuff. We did towing for the NRMA when we could get it to go. And then eventually it got smashed up. A bloke ran into it. And eventually when we got the Blitz going again, it was absolutely magic to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning with no doors, no windows on the sides, and pick up some lady who's got a broken axle, particularly when she's in a 90. She'd just taken her husband to work. Not really impressed, they weren't. Trying to get them in and out of the vehicle. And but then later on, I met my now wife. We took the Blitz to up the Putty Road, 30 mile an hour, went there going up, coming back was a bit different when you put a Holden on the back. I don't think we were very popular on a Sunday afternoon on the Putty Road at 30 mile an hour. That was downhill. But of course, then later on we were able to get into buy a Blitz, and we kept it on a friend's farm or property down the Southern Highlands. But when he had to move, we decided the Blitz was too big to take back to Sydney, So I sold it off and bought this. After the war, I can remember seeing blitzers towing guns around. Must have been an exercise, but we were in between two railway bases. We'd always thought it was something going to happen. But I love these things. You know, they were used to up and down the street, and big old white ex-army whites from were part of the railway equipment. Well, if somebody wants to start out, I'd think the thing with it is to buy something that's already going, because there's a lot of work if you look at a vehicle to start with a bunch of scrap box. But the most common thing is a Jeep, of course, and they cost too much these days. You know, they're spending a lot of money on them, and it's very hard to get a really good one. But something like this, these are different. There's still not a lot of them around, but they are different, and they are repairable. And there are a lot of common factors with Dodge trucks, Fargo trucks, except for the transfer case and the front diff. They're similar, and they're sort of, you can get around them. You can do other things with them and make them work without much problem.
Moving through this interesting day, we have Al now. How are you, Al?
I'm very well, thanks, Fletch. How are you?
Good, mate, good. Tell us about your weapon.
Well, my vehicle is a 1955 Austin Champ, and I've had it for about 14 years now. It's taken me about 12 years to get it to this state. It came from Mudgee, from a farm out that way, and it's ex-Australian Army. There are quite a few Pommy ones out here, even though it is a Pommy vehicle, but there was 200 in the Australian Army. This is one of them. And it's a pleasure. I've owned a couple of Land Rovers, and this, as far as driving ability and stuff, beats them hands down. Wow. So, yes, it doesn't drift her over the road. But then again, these were designed from the ground up as a fighting vehicle, whereas the Land Rover was designed as a tractor. Wow.
Amazingly, I mean, painstakingly restored too. I mean, it's a beautiful vehicle. You've done an excellent job with the radio gear or the transmitting equipment. Was that all that stuff? Was it easy to come by, or?
I've been collecting it for a long time, and I did have a previous Champ to this, which I had the radio equipment on, and I kept that, and have put it back on this. So.
Now we look at the engine up front. At first, I thought it was a diesel, but it is a petrol. What's the deal there, Al?
Okay, yes, it does look like a diesel, but it's actually a B40 Rolls-Royce designed motor made by Austin. Some of the early ones did have Rolls-Royces, and you can tell them because they're black as opposed to the duck egg blue. And they did make a diesel version of it. So, but in this case, it's petrol because they had lots of it back back post-war. So they didn't really care, and the fuel economy is terrible. It's a 2.8.
Of course.
It's a 2.8, and of course, just like all your muscle cars, it's 80 brake horsepower. Yeah. So
well, that's what you want. 80 horsepower, 2.8 litres, and for it to use a whole heap of fuel. I mean, that just makes incredible sense, doesn't it?
It does, yes. Yeah. You just have the army behind you with a petrol tanker.
Talk about no reward for the driver. But look, it looks good, and again, it did the job back in its day.
Yeah, well, it's fully independent suspension, 5-speed all synchro mesh gearbox, rack and pinion steering. Yes.
Right, time to crouch down. Al, what's going on with the gun?
Okay, Fletch, yes. Well, originally I went to North Head Artillery School one day, and the old chap there back in the 80s told me that they were disposing of these 4.2-inch mortars. And he said that the Champs used to tow them, and he said you should apply for one, and I did, and here she is.
Jeez, I tell you what. That's an awesome bit of gear. I mean, they're intimidating to look at.
They are. You don't get many tailgaters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, yes, it's just a nice accompaniment with the Champ, and it's historic. Yeah. It's historically attached.
Mate, there's nothing like a restored vehicle that goes off with a bang.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And everywhere he goes, he takes my shell.
I do. Or two.
He takes his shell, don't know about my shell. What I love about it is the way he's restored it. I mean, it looks great. What colour is it? Don't say green.
Well, it is deep bronze green, which is...
Is there such a colour, like the military green? Has it got a name?
Yeah, deep bronze green, that's what it's called. Yeah, and I used to actually get proper tins of deep bronze green that had deep bronze green written on it. There you go. So there you go. And then they changed when they went to Vietnam, they went all flat. So
it's the British racing green for the military.
It certainly is.
Good on you, Al. Thank you, buddy.
Good on you, Fletch. Love your show.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Don't forget you can pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote on 134646. See more online when you visit Shannons at shannons.com.au, and an opportunity to sign up to become a member of the Shannons Club. The finest in oils and coolants can't go past Penrite. They also have a 7-day technical assistance line to help us as well. See plenty more when you visit Penrite at penrite.com.au. Hope you're really enjoying today's show. Back with more after this. Time for John now on today's show. Hello, John. How are you?
Good, thanks, Fletch.
That's the way. Now, you've got a very special Jeep here. Now, tell us the year and why is it so special?
This Jeep's a bit unusual, Fletch. It's a Ford GP prototype. These Jeeps were made prior to this Jeep here, the standardised Willys and Ford Jeep. So not many of them, and they were made to be part of the competition to win the government contract for a light reconnaissance vehicle.
Wow. So when you say prototype, how many would there be?
Only 4,500 of these were made before they changed to the standardised Jeep, and this competed with the Willys MA and the Bantam BRC 40.
What a special thing. How did you find it?
I got it from a collector in Australia who bought it from a restorer in the USA. Wow. And only 3 restored in Australia and about 3 under restoration, so quite unusual here.
Always reminds me of MASH. I've said that before, but it's a MASH thing.
Yeah, this is a bit older than the MASH one, and only 1 in Australia, and you won't see them in Korea or Vietnam.
They ran side valve 4 cylinders, did?
Side valve 4 cylinder, but this is a Ford tractor motor. Right, okay. Standard Jeep has a Willys car motor. Yep. This has a Ford tractor motor.
What a bonus. I mean, this thing can pull a plough.
Absolutely. Geared very low, completely different sound, and the gearbox is out of a Model A Ford. So crash gearbox, 3-speed gearbox, no synchro. So
what a mesh though. What a transition of mechanical items encompassed together to come up with a product such as this. So, John, tell us the significance of the emblems there on the lower windscreen panel.
Fletch, this vehicle is finished in the colours of the AVG, the American Volunteer Group, and they operated before the beginning of World War II from the American viewpoint, late 41 into July 42. And they operated out of Burma and in southern China. They fought with the Chinese against the Japanese. And these were used, there were 3 squadrons, 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and they flew the planes on the bonnet here, the P-40B, otherwise known as a Kitty Hawk or a Tomahawk. So the pilots used them to get to and from the airport and also for transport, supplies and materials.
Where did Jeeps go back with you, John?
Well, actually I started with a pedal Jeep when I was about 5, so quite a few years ago.
I bet you wish you had that.
I got a replica of one, but not the original one.
See how expensive those tin metal pedal cars are now?
$500 or $1,000 depending on the condition. Yeah, so I started there, and then when I retired was one of my retirement projects. So semi-retired now, and I've got a couple of Jeeps working on it.
Good on you, John. Well, best of both worlds, retiring, enjoying life. You've got a very special vehicle. You're here today at Linwood House here at Guildford. Good on you, mate. Well done.
Right, thanks a lot, Fletch. Enjoy the day.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Feeling a bit peckish? Time for a Big Mac on today's show. How are you, John?
Good, thanks, Fletch. Great, mate. Glad to be on your show.
My pleasure.
Yes.
You know, when you think of something big, doesn't get much bigger than this, have a go at this. Mack truck, military vehicle. This is the sort of thing that I reckon you could just drive through someone's front door, through their lounge room, out through the kitchen, and just out their back door and keep on going.
True. They wouldn't even notice it, mate. They wouldn't even notice it. Such a small vehicle.
They would if they were sitting in the lounge chair.
You'd probably well and truly run over their toes, mate. Yeah, with that thing. It's a big beast. Yes. It's a.
Okay, so what's the story with you and this monster truck here, John?
I actually bought this off a gentleman in the club, the AMVCS, Australian Military Vehicles Collectors Club. His name is Mark Weltner. He actually was responsible for building this truck up. I bought it off him about 6 months ago. It was restored about 15 years ago. He bought 3 trucks in pieces, and he restored one of them, made up one truck.
It's not an attractive vehicle by any means, is it?
It's certainly ugly, yes. It's an ugly vehicle, yes. But it's got sort of, it's so ugly it's beautiful, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's got its character. I think that's what it is. And as we said too just earlier, the sheer enormity of a vehicle like this. What's it like to drive, John?
It's a little heavy on the steering, especially if you don't pump the front tyres up. I didn't pump them up before I came out here. I found it a bit difficult to steer. And the steering...
I find that hard to believe, anyway.
It's a little difficult to get round corners. The steering lock's a bit tight, so you do have to swing out a bit on corners. But apart from that, it's quite a comfortable truck to ride around the city. It's a bit slow on the highway. It's geared to do 60 kilometres an hour, so you do hold the traffic up a bit,
Engine and driveline, walk us through.
It hasn't got the original Lenovo Mack engine in it, which is a 7-litre low compression petrol engine. It's got a supercharged 2-stroke Detroit diesel motor in it. which is equivalent to the max 7 litres, and they rev out to about the same, which is 2,500 revs. It's not a very high revving motor, but quite a powerful motor. Once you put it into top gear, you can go up and down hills.
The old girl, she might have been hit by the ugly stick, but I tell you what, where it lacks in its finesse, makes up for it in its sound. Have a listen to this.
Okay, as you can see, this here is a fuel gauge, but now I'm going to start the vehicle. You can hear that supercharger going.
Talk about an awesome bit of gear, John.
Yes, I find it exciting.
It must be, I mean, really, it must be fun. It'd be fun to drive.
It's fun to drive, yeah. I mean, you get a lot of attention. There's a lot of attention, detail there, and it's an interesting truck to drive. I do have a few other vehicles, which I'm going to get rid of. But this is quite a reliable vehicle, very easy to starts first go, and great brakes on it. It's got air brakes on it, late model brakes on it, so S-cam air brakes on it. It's very easy to stop. Yeah, it's good to drive.
Good on you, mate. Well, don't go driving it over a cliff to try out the air brakes, would you?
No, I won't do that, no.
Now, John, look, I know you haven't done a full resto on this, but you're a bit of a tight bottom. When are you going to spend some money on the doors?
Yeah, the doors are actually wooden. Yeah. It's a wooden door.
They are wood.
Yeah, they are wood or some sort of compressed fibre or something. They go with the sort of general style of the truck, which is a little tatty, but pretty original. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's beautiful, John. Good on you, mate. John, I just want to thank you on the behalf. I mean, you're the largest vehicle here today. Thanks for coming along and really making this event stand out. Thank you very much.
No problem at all, Fletcher. Pleasure being here, mate, and being on your show. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, mate.
You deserve a Fletch tour. See the amazing Ford, GM and Chrysler Nationals at Carlisle events, along with museums and private collections in beautiful Pennsylvania, USA. Then it's the Motown city of Detroit and its region, taking in more die-hard stuff with incredible history. Rounding off with the Woodward Dream Cruise, the largest moving car cruise in the world.
It just makes it so much easier on yourself when Fletch picks you up, drives you around.
Laughs, lots of laughs.
More than what I expected.
I'm definitely coming back again.
Go to classicrestos.com.au and click on the Fletch Tours icon for more information. Hope you're enjoying today's show. Back with more after this.
Now, the AMVCS working with other military clubs as well. Brian, where are you from?
I'm from the Royal New South Wales Lancers Museum at Parramatta. We have a museum there, plus we have a number of vehicles that we maintain and keep operational.
One of the most interesting things about today's show is the interest of what these guys have and the vehicles that they are all wrapped up in and they're preserving. Now, behind us, what year model is it?
It's about the mid-50s. It's a Mark II Ferret Scout car.
It's unbelievable. It looks like all pieces of barbecue hot plate all welded together, doesn't it?
Well, it could be if you broke it down, I guess, yeah.
Okay, now, Brian, just quickly, the history of this vehicle. Has it served? Where were these vehicles used mainly, or were they used?
They were used by the Australian Army, mostly in Australia. I don't think any served overseas. They were bought in the early mid-50s and phased out about the mid-70s, I think. Something like that.
Now, Brian, a vehicle like this behind us now, when you guys get a hold of it, I mean, are they run down? Are they in really bad condition, or are they not too bad?
The ones we've got, they weren't too bad, but they have needed some upgrading. They were just general wear and tear, and they just need a bit to be done to them.
What's engine and driveline? What powers these things?
They're powered by a Rolls-Royce 6-cylinder motor, and they've got 5 gears, but they've also got a transfer box. So in effect, you've got 5 forward and 5 reverse gears. So you can go as fast forward and backward.
Now, Brian, if there's one message that you'd like to say to the Classic Restos audience sitting at home watching the show, what would it be in terms of what they mean to you personally?
To me, this is part of the history of the Royal New South Wales Lancers Regiment, which I served in the late 60s, early 70s, and I'm trying to preserve that. And for all your viewers, they should come out and see us on Sundays. The museum's open every Sunday from 10 to 4,
at the Lancer Barracks at Parramatta.
Yeah, do you know a website offhand?
It's lancers.org.au.
There you go. He's good. He's good. Good on you, Brian. Pleasure interviewing you.
Thanks, Fletch.
Good on you. See, Fletch likes to add variants to every TV show wherever he possibly can. We got Victor. How are you, Victor?
Very well, thank you, Fletch.
That's the way, mate. Had to pick on you. A 1963 Mazda. Have a look at this. I mean, how many miles has it done?
It's done 15,600 miles.
Well, I'm bloody amazed it's not even that. I mean, you wouldn't think it could do really many miles. I mean, look at it. It's just too small.
It's a vehicle that I found by accident in a barn at Bathurst. It had been stored away there for 38 years. Today is, in fact, its first outing.
You know, it'd have to be a great little car, I reckon, with all due respects, because it's a Japanese car. They were always built well. This two-seater, well, no, it's a four-seater car. At a glance, it's like a two-seater. Obviously meant for the cities, and I wonder how many were sold here in Australia.
Sold in Australia here, they believe there was about 10 of them. The vehicle itself is a...
they were going for the record, weren't they?
This is Mazda's first production car, so this is the first tilt Mazda had at producing a production car for the roads, yeah.
I mean, when I first saw it, I thought to look underneath to try and find the base plate with the blades hanging off it, you know.
Yeah, it does feel like that when you're driving a bit low down to the ground there.
The respect for the car is amazing because I've never seen it before. I've never seen a Mazda like this before.
The car, of course, was designed for what they call the Kia class, so the car had to be less than 3 metres long and under 360 cc's. So this is 356 cc's, I believe. Yeah. It's a V-twin, rear-engined, air-cooled, screaming its head off at about 5,000 revs.
Victor, I know I've had fun with your car this afternoon, but look, I've interviewed you for a reason. What a special little car, a 1963 Mazda. You certainly don't see one of these every day, mate. Thanks for being on the show.
Much obliged, Fletch. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Victor. With me now, John Diamond from Penrod Oil. How are you, John?
I'm excellent, Fletch. Yourself?
Good, thanks, mate. It's great to see these race cars here. Tell us a little bit about the legend of these.
Well, Dad was always a great fan of British motorsport, and his passion was motorsport. He always said he played with oil just so he could play with cars.
John, the formula of developing, evolving over time, coming up with the best results for oil, on these particular cars especially, this is where a lot of the research was done.
Absolutely. Dad always said, you know, we need to test our oils in proper racing conditions to make sure that they can live up to their standards. We make many different types of oils, we know, and one of our mottos is making the right oil for the right application. Our racing range is extensive. We've always recommended whatever car you've got, whatever engine you've got, ring our tech team. Happy to supply an answer for you.
Okay, you know who the major sponsor is. Go to classicrestos.com.au. Click on their link to be directed to their website for more information. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Fletch, and lovely shirt.
Time for Troy. How are you, Troy?
Good, Fletch. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Now, this is interesting because this guy, your first military vehicle, just goes to show you can buy one and get yourself into the hobby. Tell us what's going on.
Oh, what's going on? I just purchased this thing about a month ago from Corowa. I come from a museum down there, Owl's Eye Museum in Corowa. And we knew the guy who owned it, and he asked us, we were after a vehicle, and
you bought it. So what is it?
It's a Series 3 Land Rover, 1978.
See, Fletch knows his stuff. And good vehicle, Troy?
Yes, it's a good vehicle. It's hard to get used to at first, but getting the hang of it now. Yeah. It's good.
I guess, does it earn a bit of respect on the street, driving a military vehicle? Or do people give way to you and give you respect, or just don't care?
They just don't care. They just overtake you, and
Well, overtake you, I guess. They'd all.
It's a
probably wouldn't be real hard.
No, it's a bit slow. You've got to take it easy with the old vehicles, and they're like a truck. You just got to take it nice and slow.
Okay. Do you have to do anything to the old girls? How's it going?
It goes great. Get in it and drive it. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, well, mate, thanks for coming along and thanks for your time. Mate, you're the last car on the paddock. I had to interview you.
Leave the best to last.
Thank you very much, Troy.
No worries, Fletch. Thank you.
Well, I hope you've really enjoyed the military show on this week's episode of Classic Restos here at Linwood House in Guildford, west of Sydney, New South Wales. Now, keep in mind, classicrestos.com.au is the website that you need for the DVD boxed sets of the show, Classic Restos merchandise. Finding information on joining us in 2015 on a Fletch tour, and of course contacting the major sponsors as well. As I say at the end of every show, until next week, no matter where you're watching from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Classic Restos TV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au.
Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance, where you can sign up for the Shannons Club, and Penrite Oil, offering technical assistance 7 days a week.